Some of the scariest things I've seen weren't in movies. They were on the road. I was hauling freight through the Arizona desert one summer night. Sometime after 2 a.m., the road was dead quiet, not a single pair of headlights for miles. That kind of silence where you can hear the hum of your own engine almost echoing back at you. Then up ahead, maybe 200 yards down the asphalt, I see this car just sitting in the middle of the highway, hazards blinking, passenger door wide open. I slowed down, leaned forward in my seat, trying to figure out what I'm looking at. The thing is parked at a weird angle, almost blocking both lanes. My first thought was maybe someone broke down and needed help. You see that a lot out there. But the closer I got, the stranger it looked. There was no one inside. Driver's seat empty. Passenger seat empty. Just an open door swaying slightly like it had been left in a hurry. Something about it felt wrong. But curiosity got the better of me. I pulled over onto the shoulder, killed my high beams, and climbed down from my cab. Desert air was hot and dry, but I remember feeling this cold chill run up my arms as I walked toward the car. When I got close enough, I noticed the trunk was tied shut with rope, not latched, not jammed, actually tied down, like someone didn't want it opening. And wedged in the gaps were black garbage bags, stuffed so tight they looked like they were about to burst. I just stood there for a second, staring at it, trying to decide if I really wanted to know what was inside. Then, bang, a gunshot cracked the air. The echo rolled across the desert, so sharp it made my ears ring. I hit the ground instinctively, heart pounding, and that's when I heard a voice. Rough, angry, carrying across the empty highway. Get the hill away from there. I scrambled back toward my truck, and that's when I saw him. A man with red hair, wearing dirty overalls, stepping out from the brush on the side of the road. One hand holding a shovel, the other gripping a rifle. He wasn't running. He wasn't stumbling around like some lunatic. He walked slow, steady, like he knew exactly what he was doing, and his eyes locked on me the whole time. I didn't wait around to find out what came next. I sprinted back to my rig, fired it up, and floored it down the highway. But when I checked my mirrors, I nearly choked on my breath. Headlights. That red Ford Fusion was right on my tail. He honked, swerved, got so close I thought he was going to clip the back of my trailer. My whole rig shuddered from the turbulence as I pushed every ounce of speed I could. For miles, he stayed on me, headlights flashing, horn blaring, until finally I saw the red and blue lights of a highway patrol car up ahead. Relief washed over me. But it didn't last. The moment the cop pulled onto the shoulder, that red car swerved hard, tore off into the desert sand, and vanished into the night. Just like that. When the officer came up to my cab, I tried to explain what happened. The abandoned car, the man with the rifle, the chase. But when they searched the stretch of highway, there was nothing there. No car, no footprints, not even tire tracks in the sand where the Ford Fusion had veered off. It was like it had never existed. And to this day, I can still see his eyes in my mirror. Calm, focused, like he wasn't chasing me out of rage, but because I had seen something I was never supposed to. This one happened back when I was still green. I'd only been driving a few months, still figuring out the rhythms of the road. My dispatcher had thrown me on a long haul overnight, and I was pushing through somewhere in Oklahoma, trying not to nod off behind the wheel. You know that feeling when the road gets hypnotic? Lines blurring, eyes heavy, your brain starting to drift. I needed caffeine. Bad. So when I saw this old gas station sign glowing faintly in the distance, I pulled off without thinking twice. The building sat on the edge of the highway, the kind of place that probably hadn't seen steady business in years. One flickering neon light buzzed weakly, spelling out open 24 hours, though it looked more like a threat than an invitation. I parked my rig, killed the engine, and stepped out into the heavy summer night. The gravel crunched under my boots as I walked up, and right away something felt off. The glass door was smeared with dirt, like no one had cleaned it in ages. Inside, the shelves were stripped bare. A few dusty candy bars, a half-open box of chips, but nothing that looked fresh. The soda fridge hummed loudly against the back wall, its light flickering on and off, casting the place in stuttering shadows. And then I noticed the smell, not the musty old dust smell you expect from an abandoned place. This was sour, damp, like wet cardboard and unwashed clothes. Still, I walked the aisles, thinking maybe I'd grab a bottle of something to keep me awake. But the deeper I went, the heavier the silence felt, like the building itself was holding its breath. Then I heard it, a scrape, faint but clear, like someone shifting their weight across a dirty floor. I froze. My hand hovered near my pocket knife, even though I knew damn well a 3-inch blade wasn't going to save me if something went wrong. "Hello?" I called out, my voice way too loud in the silence. No answer, just another scrape, then another, coming from the far corner, where the lights didn't quite reach. That was enough for me. I turned on my heel and walked fast toward the door, trying not to break into a sprint. My boots echoed against the cracked tile, and for a moment I swore I could hear footsteps behind me, just barely out of sync with my own. When I stepped back into night air, it felt like I'd broken the surface of deep water. I didn't look back. I just climbed into my cab, slammed the door, and started the engine. I pulled out fast, headlights washing over the storefront one last time. And that's when I saw it, a figure, standing just inside the glass door. Pale face, dark eyes, watching me leave. I hit the gas harder than I ever had before, and didn't let off until the station was a fading dot in my mirrors. Now here's the kicker. Couple hours later, I stopped at a truck stop to grab a proper coffee and clear my head. I must have looked shaken, because another driver asked what was wrong. I told him about the abandoned station, how it looked like it hadn't been touched in years, but the lights were still on. His expression changed instantly. "Which exit?" he asked. I told him, and he shook his head. That place burned down 5 years ago. I laughed it off at first, but he wasn't joking. Said the building was condemned after a fire, boarded up, never rebuilt. I went back through there a few months later, in the daytime, just to prove him wrong. But when I pulled off that exit, there was nothing there, just an empty lot, overgrown with weeds, the outline of a foundation barely visible in the dirt. So, what the hell did I walk into that night? This next one, I don't even know how to explain it. And honestly, I don't care if people believe me or not. I know what I saw. It was late. Always is when these things happen. I was driving a stretch of highway in New Mexico. No town for miles, no other drivers in sight. Just me, my rig, and the endless blacktop cutting through the desert. The moon was out, but thin. One of those nights where everything looks silver and hollow. My headlights were the only real light on that road, and they reached just far enough to show the next set of dashed lines before swallowing the rest in darkness. That's when I noticed it. A shadow on the road. At first I thought it was just a tree or maybe a signpost throwing it across the asphalt. But as I got closer, it didn't stretch or move like a normal shadow. It just stayed there, fixed. I slowed down, leaning forward, trying to make sense of it. It was the outline of a person, arms hanging at their sides, head slightly tilted, perfectly still. But there was nothing, no body, no figure, just a shadow lying flat across the pavement like someone invisible was standing right there under my headlights. My stomach dropped. Every instinct screamed at me not to stop. So I didn't. I pressed the accelerator, keeping my eyes locked on that dark shape as I rolled right over it. And here's the part that haunts me. The shadow's head turned. Not the shape, not the angle on the road. I mean the head itself, twisted, following me as I passed. I damn near ripped the wheel out of the dash, trying not to swerve. My heart was pounding, so hard it drowned out the sound of the engine. A few miles later, I tried to calm myself down, convincing myself it was a trick of the light, maybe fatigue messing with my eyes. But then I saw another one, and another, each one different. A tall figure, a hunched one that looked like it was crawling. I kept driving mile after mile, and the shadows kept showing up, always just at the edge of my headlights, always on the road directly in front of me. Then I looked in my mirrors, and that's when the bottom dropped out of my stomach, because the road behind me was filled with them. Dozens of shadows, stretched across the pavement as far back as I could see, all twisted in different poses. And even though I couldn't hear a thing over my engine, I swear I could feel them screaming. I didn't stop until I reached the next city, parked my rig under the brightest lights I could find, and sat there until sunrise, hands shaking too bad to even pour myself coffee. To this day, I avoid that stretch of highway. Don't know if it was something paranormal, or if the desert plays tricks on your eyes after too many hours awake. But here's what sticks with me most. Every once in a while, late at night, I'll catch something flicker at the edge of my headlights, just for a second, a shape where no shape should be. And every time, it feels like they're still out there, waiting. I've picked up hitchhikers before. Not often, but every once in a while when someone looked genuinely stranded, I'd pull over and offer a lift. Truckers have a bad rep for ignoring people, but out on lonely roads, sometimes we're the only help around. But after this one night, I'll never stop for anyone again. It was around 3 a.m., middle of nowhere in Texas, the kind of two-lane highway where you could drive for an hour without seeing another soul. I was halfway through a long shift when my headlights caught someone walking on the shoulder. It was a woman. She wore this pale blue dress that looked out of place, like it belonged in the 1950s. She had long dark hair, and she walked slow, one hand raised slightly like she was signaling for me to stop. At first, I thought she'd been in an accident. Maybe a car broke down, and she was looking for help. So against my better judgment, I slowed, rolled down my passenger side window, and leaned across the cab. "Need a ride?" I called out. She didn't answer, just turned her head toward me. And I'll never forget what I saw. Her face was pale, too pale, almost gray, and her eyes looked cloudy, like smoke trapped behind glass. But the strangest part, she didn't look surprised or scared. She looked calm, like she'd been waiting for me. Against every instinct I had, I unlocked the passenger door, and she climbed in. Her movements were slow, stiff, like her joints didn't work right. She settled into the seat without saying a word, just folded her hands in her lap and stared straight ahead. For a few miles, I tried to talk to her, asked if she was okay, asked if she needed me to call someone. Nothing, not a sound. The silence in that cab was suffocating. Finally, I glanced over at her, and she was gone. The seat was empty. No sound, no door opening, no movement, just gone. My stomach lurched, and I nearly drove off the road. I slammed the brakes, pulled onto the shoulder, and flipped on every light I had. I searched the cab, the trailer, even the road behind me. Nothing. She had vanished. I sat there for a long time, trying to calm my breathing. Eventually, I convinced myself I'd fallen asleep for a second, maybe dreamed the whole thing. But here's the part that keeps me awake even now. When I finally looked over at the passenger seat again, it was damp. The fabric was wet, like someone had been sitting there in soaking clothes. I left it like that. Never cleaned it. That truck's long gone now. But sometimes I wonder who's driving it, and if they've ever felt the same cold chill I did when she first turned her cloudy eyes toward me. Some of the scariest things I've dealt with on the road haven't been ghosts or shadows. They've been people, flesh and blood. And this one, I still don't know what their intentions were, but I know it wasn't good. I was hauling through Arkansas late one night, long stretch of highway, no exits for miles. The road was mine alone, until a pair of headlights appeared in my mirror. At first, I didn't think much of it. Cars come and go, but this one stayed. No matter how fast or slow I went, they matched my speed perfectly. Not close enough to tailgate, but just far enough back to stay in my mirrors. 10 minutes went by, then 20, 30, and those headlights never left. I told myself it was coincidence. Maybe another night I'll just cruising along. But then the car edged closer. High beams flashed once. Then again, I tapped my brakes, hoping they'd get the message. Instead, They drifted even closer, hugging my blind spot where I couldn't quite see them. My skin crawled, every nerve on high alert. I switched lanes. So, did they? I slowed down. They slowed down. At that point, my hands were slick with sweat on the wheel. I knew I couldn't just pull over, not on a dark stretch of road like this with no one around. So I did what truckers are taught to do when things feel wrong. I got on the CB radio and started calling out, hoping another driver nearby might hear. Nothing but static. The car lingered there for almost an hour. I could feel them watching me, waiting, and the longer it went on, the more I started to wonder if they were planning something. Finally, up ahead, I spotted Salvation, a brightly lit way station, open late. I signaled hard, pulled off, and rolled in. The car followed me up the ramp, but right before the entrance, they swerved, tires screeching, and bolted back onto the highway. I never saw their face. Never even got a clear look at the car, just those damn headlights glued to me in the mirror. But here's the part that chills me the most. When I stopped inside the station, one of the inspectors came over and told me I'd made the right call. He said the stretch of highway had a history, drivers being followed, harassed, even forced off the road. Some of them never made it back. To this day, whenever a car hangs behind me too long, I feel that same cold dread in my chest. Because out there on the open road, you're more vulnerable than you think. And sometimes, the real monsters aren't the ones hiding in the dark. They're the ones with their headlights on, waiting for you to make the wrong move. Every trucker's heard stories. Some are about strange lights in the sky, others about phantom hitchhikers or old rest stops that don't exist anymore. But the one that stuck with me the most came from a night I wish I could forget. I was pushing through Nevada, late, dead tired, but determined to make it another 100 miles before pulling off. Out there, the desert stretches forever, a straight road cutting through nothingness. That's when I saw them. Headlights. At first just a couple, way off in the distance. But as I rolled closer, I realized it wasn't just one or two trucks. It was a whole line, at least 10 rigs, perfectly spaced, cruising together in formation. I'd seen convoys before, but something about this one was different. No chatter on the CB, no license plates I could make out, just a line of massive semis, chrome glinting in the moonlight, rumbling steady at 60. I eased in behind them, thinking maybe I could catch a draft and ride along for a while. But almost immediately, something felt wrong. Their taillights didn't look right. Too dim, like they weren't really lit, just glowing faintly in the dark. And the longer I followed, the colder it felt in my cab, like the air itself had dropped 10 degrees. I picked up the mic, tried reaching out. Breaker 19, you boys up ahead running together? Nothing, just static. Then, without warning, the lead truck swerved, smooth, sharp, all at once, and the whole convoy followed. One by one, they turned off onto a narrow dirt road I hadn't even noticed until that moment. No signals, no hesitation, just a perfect synchronized turn into the desert. Curiosity got the better of me. I slowed, thinking about following them, maybe just to see where a convoy that size was headed at 3 a.m. But when my headlights swept across the turnoff, there were no tire tracks, no dust in the air, no road, just empty desert stretching out under the moonlight. I slammed the brakes and sat there, heart hammering, staring into nothing. I knew what I saw. 10 rigs, chrome gleaming, engines growling, a full convoy. And in the blink of an eye, they were gone. I didn't stick around to question it. I drove harder than I ever had that night, like the darkness itself was chasing me. And to this day, I wonder, were they ghosts? Spirits of truckers who never made a home? Or something else entirely? Something not meant to be seen by the living? All I know is this. If you're ever driving through Nevada in the dead of night, and you spot a line of trucks running, without a word, don't follow them. Because some roads out there don't lead anywhere you'd ever want to go. The road has a way of changing people. Spend enough nights out there, staring into the endless dark, and you start to realize how thin the line really is between the world you know and the one that waits just beyond the headlights. Some of these stories sound like ghost tales. Others feel all too real, Stalkers, strangers, the kind of dangers you can't explain away. But for the men and women behind the wheel, they're not just campfire stories. They're memories. Encounters that stick with them long after the engine shuts down. Maybe it's exhaustion. Maybe it's paranoia. Or maybe the highway really does hold on to the souls and secrets of everyone who's ever traveled it. All I know is this. The next time you're driving a lonely stretch of road, pay attention. Look twice at the shadows. Listen when the radio crackles. And if you ever feel like something or someone is following you, don't ignore it. Because out there, where the darkness stretches on forever, you never know who's waiting just beyond the beam of your headlights. And sometimes you don't want to find out.